Hi everyone and welcome. My name is Dora. This is my finale to my 30-day makeup bag challenge. I am so excited to update you on everything that's been going on in the past month. I have successfully completed my 30-day makeup bag challenge. And if you're like Dora, you're wearing the same outfit as you did in update 3 of No Pie Left Behind. Yes, it's the same day. I'm filming in the exact same outfit and makeup look. You're just seeing it much later, this video here. When my intro went live of this challenge, I'm going to link that for you in the description box below, by the way. I was on day 29 of this challenge. So I'm done now. I've completed it successfully. It was both fun and challenging. I mean, that's kind of the idea of a challenge, isn't it? So yeah, that was very successful in that regard. And I've also had a lot of empties and I've hit some new pans as well. So I want to go through all of that with you, show you my progress on all of my makeup products. I wrote in 23, but because I had empties, I replaced them. So 4 of those 23, I had 5 empties, and 4 of those I ended up replacing. And I didn't replace the last item because that just happened on day 30. So I didn't need to replace it. I've also got 5 pages worth of notes here. So I'm gonna go, through those as well. I'm just wondering what order to do it in, to be honest. This is gonna be a long video. I mean, you know this already. I kind of have a feeling it will be as well. Fingers crossed I'm gonna be able to film it all in one day. But if you're seeing me in a new outfit with a new look, then that's why. Then maybe my camera storage was full or I ran out of time. I want to show you what's on this page here. So that's my grid. These are the 30 days and you can see there's ticks going through it all the way. So every day I completed a makeup look or a day, where I successfully only used what was in my challenge. I gave myself a tick, so yeah, 30 ticks here. I was 100% accurate, of course, as I always have been. This is round 3, by the way. And then I also added in little highlights in terms of if something worth mentioning happened. On day 4, the first thing happened, and that is that I hit pan Infuse. It's a periwinkle shadow that I actually happen to have as a nail polish topper on my mani today. I hit pan on that on day 4. Very happy about that. Probably not news to you if you're already following my Pan That Palette series. On day 6, my Lancome foundation wouldn't pump anymore. Yes, it was very low to begin with when I rolled it in. So on day 6 I couldn't pump it out anymore, which meant I had to scrape out what was in there, put it in a little jar, and I used that up, and I'll let you know when I completed it. It lasted still quite a bit longer. So that was day 6. Day 10 now, I actually ended up decluttering my Essence/Princess mascara. It was starting to get really tingly on my eyes. It didn't feel good anymore. It was after 5 months of it being open, and I thought, you know what, there's still a lot of product, but I'm not risking it. And it also would crumble and, drop down to my cheeks only like 10 minutes into my makeup. So it was time to go. I was very surprised by that, but yeah. And I replaced it, of course. So 2 days later then, on day 12, I had a lot of things going on. The first thing was that my Revolution lip crayon broke off. It didn't drop, thankfully. It's a crayon that twists up and it just sort of jumped out. As I was applying it, it became loose. And I luckily caught it. It never actually left the packaging, but it was, jumping out a little bit. I'm trying to finish that product as part of my year-long project pan or plan to pan for this year. I'm just not sure anymore now if that's going to be a guaranteed actual proper empty, because what if it jumps out again and drops on the floor? Then I'm not gonna continue using it, obviously. So that's a problem for another day, but I wrote it down because I thought it was worth documenting. The second thing that happened on that day was that I hit pan in Fortify, and that's a brown matte shadow, dark brown one, outer corner type of shadow, also from my Pan That palette, the Revolution Smoked palette. And then the third thing that happened, third and fourth, I had 2 empties. So my Lancome foundation that stopped pumping 6 days before was finally empty. So I had another week worth of product in there. I think that's interesting. And I also declared my Note Mineral Lip Gloss as empty. I could have removed the stopper, but it was old at that point. I got it in an advent calendar in 23. So it's 2.5 years old, and with lip glosses I'm not comfortable doing that unless they're sort of within the 12-month period, but yeah, it's definitely older than that. And it was never a favorite. I never picked it out. It was in an advent calendar, so someone had chosen it for me, the brand basically, a glossy box. So yeah, 2 empties, a broken lip crayon and a new pan on day 12. Day 13, just 1 day later, lots happened. I hit another pan, this time in a really quite deep blue shimmer shadow, again from the Revolution Swap palette in Tremble. And I also had an empty again, and that was in the only eye pencil that I had rolled in, the Trended Up eye pencil. So it was a gimme product to begin with. Day 13 is when I managed to empty it. Then not much happened. On day 17, I decided to make things happen by repressing a lot of shadows and products that were just, you know, where there wasn't a lot of product left, and I just wanted to make it easier for myself to use those products. So I repressed my face powder, my Franken face powder, and I also repressed 3 eyeshadows. There was Sepia, a brown shimmer from my Pan That palette, a Kiko pink single depotted shadow, actually repressed several times at this point already, and then Glam Green from the Natasha Denona Ayana palette, which again was in my BYOP, so my singles palette that I had included as part of this challenge. So 4 represses on day 17. Then on day 18, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days after emptying the eye pencil, that's when I decided to replace the eye pencil, but not with another eye pencil, but actually with a primer. And I brought in a Revolution primer in order to thin out and make my foundation work better, my replacement foundation for the Lancome. I struggled with that new foundation roll-in for 5 or 6 days until I replaced the eye pencil with a primer so that I could mix the foundation. That was day 18. Then nothing happened, really dry patch there, a whole week, not much going on, until day 26. 8 days later, I had another empty, and that was my Catrice lip pencil. Such a gimme product, and I was so sure I'd be done with that much, much sooner. But yeah, rolled it out with 4 days to spare in terms of the challenge. And then on day 30, I'm not going to tell you which one, I had an eyeshadow empty. I will of course tell you, but just not quite yet. I want to keep at least some of the suspense. I'm going to skip ahead to my revelations. I was not bored of the eyeshadows that I had included. So just to recap, I included my Pan That palette, a ready-made palette with 18 shadows, 3 of which are pressed glitters, so technically a 15-pan palette, and then a build your own palette, and that was it. That was way less than what I had included in round 1 and 2. I remember in round 1 I had 5 eyeshadow palettes. Overall, my build your own palette has really been the star of the show for me as part of this challenge. I have loved working on my build your own palette. And of course, I'm going to get into that loads more. In fact, I've been more excited by my eyeshadows. Working on less, on fewer options, actually feels like I have more options, because I'm more motivated and I'm not decision fatigued by the volume of eyeshadows that I usually have access to. That's a key point there. So having less actually felt like I had more variety, because the overwhelm wasn't paralyzing me anymore. And what had happened previously was that I was really going to the same exact things. And I'm seeing a parallel there with my closet pan, because where I'm, you know, doing like a project pan but for clothing items, and I'm only initially in my intro focusing on items on hangers. This is a little bit of a side note here, but it sort of relates. I was feeling so overwhelmed by what I had on hangers that I couldn't really see what I had anymore. So I kept reaching for the exact same items to wear, exactly the same with eyeshadows. Whereas reducing that overwhelm actually means I can see what I have and I'm far more inclined to be creative with what I have. Second point here, I really wanted, quite early on, I really wanted to multitask an item. I wanted to try out an existing product from my stash, not from my challenge. I wanted to try that out in a new way and it wasn't included. So that was a little bit annoying, but it also inspired me to replace empty products with perhaps a different type of product. So for example, I wanted to really bring in my eyeshadow base. When I wrote this down, I didn't have an empty yet. I had heard, I want to say, yeah, it would have been in a Lisa Eldridge tutorial because those are the only tutorials that I watch. I love seeing Get Ready With Me's, but I only watch Get Ready With Me's from Project Panners because I don't care about new products. I want to see the technique, or I want to see you using your existing stash. I'm far more excited by that. Okay, another side note there, but this is going to be full of side notes. Let's be real. I had heard her recommend to someone whose eye makeup she was doing that if you've got oily lids and under eyes and your mascara tends to transfer, to perhaps use an eyeshadow base to just lock that in place a little bit more. And I really wanted to try that out. Well, I haven't, because I never decided to replace an empty with my only eyeshadow base. It's a good reminder though, I'd sort of forgotten about it, and then switching out the mascara definitely helped. But yeah, I might try that in the future. If so, of course, I'll update you, and if you're watching all of my content, then you will know once I've done it. Okay, I actually have to admit I used more makeup because I was doing more top-ups throughout the day than I ordinarily would have done. But I think I'm going to give myself grace and say I think that's okay. Restriction creates more desire to do the thing that you're trying not to do. And I think that's why no buys can be so difficult, especially if you're going cold turkey, because you're going to have makeup on your mind 24/7. And the challenge sort of did that to me as well. I really wanted to see progress as well. It was super exciting for me to tally all of my uses. I don't normally do that unless something is in a project for a usage goal, and that's only really through like a handful of projects. I can only really think of Deck of Panning or Clue Special Panning Edition, which, you know, I'm not doing at the moment because I already completed it. So I don't really tend to tally everything, so that was really exciting to me, and I wanted more progress. So yeah, I topped up a little bit more than I ordinarily would have done, which is ironic because I announced in the intro that I wanted to specifically have a no makeup day. Well, I can already tell you that never happened, but I did have a no makeup day on day -1, on day 0, a day before my challenge started. And then I thought, you know what, at least do a no makeup day on the day after the challenge. And I did that. I had 2 complete no makeup days, like nothing on there, not even, no, it's not on here right now, not even a tinted SPF that I was tempted to use. But then I thought, no, do it properly, like no makeup. Yes, an SPF went on, but it wasn't tinted. I didn't conceal. I didn't even put a brow product in. I just brushed dry through my brows, and that was it. I put a lip balm on, non-tinted. So that was kind of a success, I guess. And had I not told you all that I was going to try and do that, and I said, I watched it back because I was editing it, I did say I'm going to try and do that. I didn't promise I would do it. Technicalities, but yeah, that's the only reason that I did it. Otherwise, I would not have done it. I would have been far too excited to put all this other makeup back on my face that wasn't included in this challenge. And by the way, everything I'm wearing today, looking rather shiny, okay, or let's call it dewy. None of the products today are anything from my 30-day makeup bag challenge. My goal this year is to move products out so that I can put the rest of my collection back into my drawer. I have 2 drawers, but I have an everyday makeup drawer, and then I have a eyeshadow and nail polish drawer. Yeah. And I don't want it to be as crammed as it was before. Maybe these 30 days have already helped with that a little bit, but then again, finishing a lip pencil and an eye pencil, they don't exactly take up a lot of space. After the first week, I really felt like I wanted to have more options, specifically for the rest of my face, less so with eyeshadows. But yeah, I was craving more options. And it really felt daunting that at that point, I would have still had 3 to 4 weeks left of the challenge. And I needed to motivate myself, and I did that by watching and creating panning content, and also by coming up with different new eyeshadow combinations, and by inspecting my chosen products for progress, just really staring at them every day and just trying to use all of that to motivate myself. I ended up being quite spurred on then by how close I was to finishing some of the products that I had included. And I also looked at some before footage of the items in projects, looking at those intro pictures from the start of the year and then comparing them to what was in front of me. That really gave me a boost of confidence in terms of that I could really finish these products by the end of the year, and that this challenge would really help me to give me a great head start. I was expecting to use much more face powder. Yeah. But I had just changed up my skincare routine. Remember, maybe from the intro, the reason I had a no makeup day before the challenge started was because I had a facial on day -1, and then I wasn't allowed to wear any makeup. Yeah, I changed my skincare routine, a couple of other bits she recommended as well. So I actually needed a lot less powder overall. Again, it looks a bit different now, but I'm also wearing a very blinding highlighter today, and I went a little bit everywhere. Yeah, so I wrote here, it's really hard to predict what our needs and preferences are, even just for a month. You just don't know. Yeah, so even for a short period, and that's even like when you go traveling, you can't always predict. You know, you might be like reacting differently to the water when you're going on holiday, your hair, your skin. I know it does that for me a lot of the time, when there's like a different hardness or pH levels in the water, or you're changing your skincare. Maybe you've only got one new product that you're using, or you're leaving out one that you would have used before. Suddenly everything can be different, and that made such an impact in this instance on how I was using my face powder. And even though I was so close, it was such a gimme product, I didn't finish it. I also started to feel a bit nervous about some other products that I would still like to finish in 2026 that weren't in this challenge. I'm thinking of my purple Kiko eyeshadow pen, for example. Looking at it today, and because I was considering using it as an eyeshadow base, but I didn't. I remembered that, yeah, you do apply it and you can immediately see the difference. So I think I can do it for the end of the year, but I have to, you know, get cracking on it. I was even more excited about putting my makeup on than I usually am. I think I already went into that a little bit in terms of the tallies, also in terms of another opportunity of creating different eye looks, using and combining my shadows in new ways that I had never done before. I did quite a bit of frankening on my eyelids. Yeah. Here's an interesting thing. So this is where I multitasked a product. So I'd included a Glaminatrix Peach Matte Shadow, and I ended up using this as an under eye color corrector combined with my Franken face powder, and it worked really well. And I think I'm going to continue to do that, and therefore that shadow is probably going to be rolled into my official Build Your Own palette. So good. Next point, I was really struggling with stretching out the replacing of empties. I'd said that as a challenge in my intro. I wanted to wait before I would replace a product, and not just replace it on the same day or for the immediate next look that I'd be doing. It was helpful to write that down and journal it here, and then I did remember to stretch something out and actually also not replace an item with a with the same product. I was really enjoying the new Beauty Bay lip gloss that I rolled in, which I got from the lovely Daria, who I'm going to link down below as well. She's here on YouTube. I rolled that one in because I decluttered the note or declared it empty. It is empty, but you know what I mean. And I wrote here, so I'm going to try to hold off replacing the eye pencil that I finished today, at least for a day or two. I replaced it on day 18, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days later. And here are my thoughts for the second week. So pans were hit and empties were made, so that all really gave me lots of motivation, and I was so excited to keep going. So week 1 seemed a bit daunting. Week 2 I was like, yes, it's happening, great. I really found my groove then. And this was also the time when I got creative about the products in my challenge. So for example, I started using Emit, a brown, squishy textured, brown, slightly shimmery eyeshadow from my Pan That palette as a liner, instead of replacing the eye pencil with another eye pencil. I was also inspired to change or experiment with how I apply my makeup, by using different brushes that I hadn't used in ages. Yeah, that's true. My brush container here is far more crowded than it used to be, and I quite like that because, yeah, I'm trying out new things. And that's good. A different brush with the same product can give you such a different finish and result that, yeah, it does feel creative, and it does feel like there is variety just by switching out the brushes. I found the Note foundation too thick. My skin didn't love it either. It made me very oily. So that's why I decided to, as I already mentioned, to roll in the Revolution Ceramide Primer, and that is from my Plan to Pan. So in order to thin out my foundation and to mix it on the back of my hand rather than in the bottle. Usually I'd be tempted to mix products within the bottle if I'm shade matching, but I didn't want to do that with a primer. I absolutely love this combo. Spoiler, I tweaked it a little bit more, and I was ready to declutter both products because they're horrible on their own. Yeah, but I didn't want to do that because at that point, both of them were still in projects. Well, I'm trying to finish the Revolution Ceramide Primer, as I already said, and the Note is in my 2+ years project pan. I've hit my goal now. You know, I can give away that much. But I don't want to declutter them anymore because I found a really cool way of using them, and I actually tweaked that by mixing in a third product, which I'll get to. What I really like is that in combination with the primer, it creates a really natural looking, dewy, velvety finish, which looks amazing once it's worn in a little bit. Here are some notes in terms of after the halfway point. So now this is after day 15. I tidied up my palette and polish drawer. Obviously, I was still allowed to touch all of my other products. I was just not allowed to put them on my face or on my nails. And I shuffled things around to make it tidier in that drawer. You know, so they're arranged like that rather than on top. It's so hard to see what I've got. And then I've got a little corner in that drawer next to my little box that holds all of my polishes. And those are all of the palettes in projects. And yeah, I'm already, I mean, it's day 1 now off the challenge, off as in double F, where I'm enjoying that. I can see what's in a project. I know what I want to grab for, and it's like not overwhelming so much anymore because I can see everything in one place in one little section. And that also means I can access palettes that aren't in projects way easier if I'm trying to figure out, yeah, for example, I filmed a No Pan Left Behind update earlier today, so I wanted to grab a couple more palettes to roll in. Great about rearranging my palettes, but of course that made me want to play with my makeup more. I also then started watching some old tutorials for palettes in projects that really made me want to play with the rest of my eyeshadow collection, specifically the BH Cosmetics Passion in Paris palette, because I had just rolled it into Deck of Panning, and I had just barely ever, no, I don't think I've ever really used it. Maybe the odd shadow here and there. If so, then no more than 2 shadows, so let's say unused. yeah, and I wanted some inspiration in terms of what looks I could create. So I watched these older tutorials, and yeah, and then I was like, oh, I miss all of my eyeshadows, but I stuck with it, so that's good, I guess. Yeah, it was like I was teasing myself there. I don't watch tutorials or that type of content on socials, so I can really understand. It really made, you know, it gave me such a moment of compassion to anyone who is on a no-buy and is really finding it hard, especially if you're regularly watching content where you're seeing tutorials with new products, whether that is long form or short form content. That really makes you want to have other things that you haven't got yet. And yes, this challenge is a bit different. There's still some sort of restriction going on here. And then, yeah, if you're telling yourself, I can't buy more makeup, but that's on your brain, and you're like looking at these tutorials, I so get it, that it makes you want to buy more because they are inspiring. They know what they're doing then. Obviously they work, and that's why they're around, and that's why influencers, that's a whole thing. But yeah, maybe it's a reminder to just turn that type of content off for a little bit until you're like, you've really found your groove with your no-buy. Just a thought. I mean, it's not like brand new information, but yeah, I just really, really felt it within my bones at that point. So yeah, I wrote here, it would make a no-buy super hard and tempting. How tempting it is to want to play with what they're showing or using. Maybe it would help to unsubscribe from some creators, maybe delete some apps even. I know I've deleted Vinted, different story, because I just needed to come off the whole secondhand, or to me, because that's the new clothes that I bring in, they're all secondhand. I needed to delete the app. Or how about that, watch some old tutorials of makeup that you already own and be re-inspired with your existing collection, like I was with the BH Passion in Paris, and I'm so gonna use that tomorrow for my look. It was just that I wanted to complete, I needed to use one eyeshadow from one palette and no pan left behind, and that's why I opted not to use Passion in Paris. But yeah, that's definitely the palette that I'm most drawn to right now, to use as a complete palette in a standalone look. And yeah, that was because of the tutorials that I watched. Okay, how about I stop banging on about it and move on. My notes on the third week, I really wanted this challenge to be over. Week 1, daunting. Week 2, yeah, loving it. Week 3, no. Yeah. I was craving using other palettes, and I also wanted to see what everything would look like once it's back in my everyday makeup drawer. There wasn't anything happening that week. Yeah, it was a bit of a dry patch in terms of progress. So no empties, no new pans hit. So it felt like a bit of a drag. So I did some repressing just to excite myself. And while that feels like, yeah, I was sort of forcing the progress, so I needed something to happen, sometimes afterwards you feel like, oh, I've just undone all of my progress, because you've removed a huge juicy looking pan to repress something, and then yeah, it doesn't really, such a double-edged sword there. It also didn't help that I filmed my Pandas Eyeshadows intro then during the third week, and I really wanted to wear my new color story. I'm wearing one of the shadows today actually. On the other hand, it was very productive, and I filmed some other non-makeup content, my closet pan intro, that I'd really been putting off. So it was a good moment to just focus my attention elsewhere and be productive, to sort of distract myself with work. I do that a lot. I also regretted my replacement foundation choice again at this point. Week 3. The shade match was awful, even though I was alright with the texture then by fixing it with that primer. I really wanted to mix a lighter foundation into it, but obviously I wasn't going to do that. I would have had to empty something to introduce another product in. What I did was I mixed in a third product, and that's the Gorgeous Glow Filter Finish by Collection. So it's a priming, illuminating primer. I think it's a dupe for the Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless filter, I guess. never used it, but this is what I hear. So I use that generally to clean up fallout and shape a little bit. I didn't do that today because it was in this challenge, so therefore it's not on my face today. But I started to mix the Note foundation, far too warm, far too thick, and oh yeah, you'll see in the numbers in terms of the weight differences that even though I used it more than the Lancome, I used way less product because I just don't need a lot of it. And then 1/3 of the primer and then another 1/3 of the illuminator. But that was an alright match. But still, in a lot of the videos that I filmed in that time period, you can really see my face is very warm, my neck less so. Final week, no, it's nearly there. I was really motivated then to keep going because I could really see the finish line. And I also decided that I was going to pan an eye look because I wanted to get another empty. I'm not going to give away what that was. And that was really cool because that inspired me to roll in a different replacement lip liner in a completely different color that's really a bit more out there, because I knew, oh, this is going to match my eye look that I'm panning now. So I knew there were just 4 days left, and I was confident in rolling in a lip pencil that wasn't a neutral color. I didn't manage to do a no makeup day during the 30 days, but I had a no makeup day on both day 0 and on day 30+1. So that felt really good and almost like a palette cleanser. So those are all of my notes. Okay, let's look at the makeup now. And I'm gonna go through the order that I've got everything written down here. Let's kick off with my Studio London Setting Mist. And here is where I am with this one now. I had to redraw the Sharpie line on so many of these products so many times, because as soon as I touched them with my, you know, primed hands or whatever was going on, I use a lot of hand cream as well, then it would rub off. So using nail polish is way easier, but yeah, I didn't want to do that for this challenge because I use nail polish for my other projects. But this is the tiny bit of progress that I've made in 1 month of usage. I don't think I can finish this by the end of the year. I'm gonna try. I used this item 16 times. That's obviously not enough. But I've got a weight difference on here of 7.36 grams. So that's something. Moving on, first empty Lancome foundation. I think the little line came off as well, but yeah, it's empty now. I got 20 uses out of this, so obviously there were a lot of reapplications there. Often, you know, say I was filming or say I was doing a makeup look in the morning, and then maybe I'd have an event, not an event, but like meeting up with a friend or doing something in the evening. Of course I'm gonna touch up or maybe sometimes even redo my makeup. So that's why on a lot of these products you're seeing like over 40 uses. And comparing it to round 2, I don't have access to my round 1 tallies anymore. I'd have to actually rewatch the video. But that's sort of, you know, exactly the same as it was in the previous round, which I think is interesting and worth noting. Okay, 20 uses and then it was done, and I used up 3.77 grams worth of product. The Note foundation that I rolled in as a replacement, here it is. So I mixed that before I brought it in, and then I wasn't allowed to concoct it anymore. I have used this item 24 times, and I've got a weight difference of 3.38 grams. So as a reminder, 3.77 grams difference in 20 uses, so 4 more uses, but almost 0.4 grams less used here than compared to the Lancome. My Chanel concealer I have used 43 times, and I've got a weight difference on here of 0.6 grams, so that's barely anything. But there was a point once where I had to go in and swipe it, you know, along the edges of the product there, when normally I would just pull it out and there'd be plenty of product on the doe foot for me to apply to both eyes. And I always dab on the back of my hand, and then I never go straight onto mine. Next is my Collection Gorgeous Glow Filter Finish So say, because later on, as you know, I used it to mix into my foundation, I still only tallied one use because I'd be using it for cleaning up fallout. And then the mixing, still I've got 36 uses on here, and that's a weight difference of 1.67 grams, and I can't draw a new line. It's just what it is. But, you know, if you're looking at, this is the progress from this year, it's happening. Next, my MAC single eyeshadow that I use in my brows, although not today. I've got 35 uses on here. I don't think it looks much different. I've got a weight difference of 0.02 grams on here. I had this in both round 1 and round 2. In round 1, I used up 0.03 grams, so a little tiny bit more than this time. In round 2, I used up nothing, 0. It is what it is. This item shocked me. My concocted Franken powder in this Alverde component, such a gimme product, you would think. 49 uses, but I'm still not done. Here, it's still there. I mean, that might be maybe another 1 or 2 uses. I've got a weight difference of 0.76 grams on here though, and yeah, this is a definite empty in the next coming days, but I couldn't make it for day 30. Then the H&M Do It All Stick in Rose Coral. I have got 36 uses on here. I use this every single day, and of course, yeah, I reapplied it here and there as well. Always on my cheeks, not on my lips. It is for lips and cheeks, but I think it's expired a little bit. At least officially. It's still good, but you know, it's definitely past the time frame where I'm still comfortable to put this on my lips. Okay, minus 0.66 grams. I'm really hopeful I can finish this item for the end of the year. This is a Plan to Pan product. Let's move on now to my concocted bronzer. So I have to dig into my BYOP for that. I used this item 34 times. I'm very proud of that because I was maybe averaging about 10 to 12 uses on a monthly basis. It has been part of my Build Your Own palette for this whole year, last year as well, and I was trying to finish it in the previous year. Here it is today, after 34 uses. I have used up 0.17 grams. I also had it in round 1 and in round 2. In round 1, I used 0.23 grams, so a bit more than this time round. And in round 2, I used the exact same amount, also 0.17 grams. I'm not hopeful that I can do it, but maybe if I use a slightly different brush. My Physicians Formula highlighter, Rosé All Day. I have used this product 33 times, not just for my brow bone, but also often to wear it on top of the matte H&M blush stick, just to make it more shiny. And yeah, and then again, you know, 1 use per look is what I tallied. 33 uses and a difference of 0.32 grams. Next up is all my lip products. So I've got this lipstick here by Mina called The Lipstick in 257. I used this lipstick 18 times and I've got a weight difference of just 0.1 grams. It's barely anything, but you know, it's okay. I'm gonna show you visuals once I've shown you all of my makeup. I'm gonna show you that page where I did new line markings. Then I had the Catrice lip liner in Queen Vibes. This was an empty, quite late, 34 uses, minus 0.05 grams on here. And then I replaced it with the Manhattan Extreme Last lip liner, just in red. It doesn't really have a shade name. And I only used this 5 times because I wrote it in so close to the end of the challenge. I'll show you what's left in here. I weighed it, so there's no weight difference on here, just those 5 uses. And as I had predicted, we did get cut off. My battery completely died. I'm filming on my phone, by the way. It just went completely black. I had to charge it And you know, that can take a little bit. And I just thought, you know what, I'm just gonna do it on another day. So yeah, new outfit, new eye look, new mani. Eye look, I'm so excited about. Little side note here. I did an exclusive look with the BH Passion in Paris palette, which is in Deck of Panning right now, so no pan left behind. And yeah, you wouldn't think, right, that this Pompidou, this red shadow here, it blends out so pink. But back to my makeup products and my progress. I think I was just showing you this lip liner here. So I had brought this in as a replacement, 5 uses on here, 0 weight difference. And yeah, here is where I am. This is a Plan to Pan product and I'm trying to finish it this year. I did a couple of looks where I wore this all over my lips, and I think, you know, for 26 and 2026, if I do want to finish it by December, then I need to be doing that a lot more. Let's move on then. The Note Mineral Lip Gloss, here it is. This is an empty now and I used it 18 more times until it was done. And I've got a weight difference of 0.16 grams. You can see when I pull it out, it's pretty dry. And as I'd already mentioned, I wasn't comfortable taking the stopper out. And besides, this is a really messy product already with the stopper still in there. So no, I'm happy to just call it a day. This was a Plan to Pan product from last year, so at least I finished it now. In its place, I brought in a Beauty Bay lip gloss, which I actually got from the lovely Daria, who I'm going to link down below. We did a makeup swap on day one. I feel like I mentioned that already. This one is the Beauty Bay Dewy Hint Lip Tint in Slippers. It's really pretty. It's kind of similar to the Note, but the texture, the formula is so much nicer and it's a bit more cool leaning. Yeah, I really enjoy this formula actually, and the color as well. I have got 27 uses on here and I did weigh it when I brought it in, and I've got a weight difference of 0.43 grams with those 27 uses. Moving on to my lovely lip crayon here by Revolution. This is the one that broke. And I can still, you know, I've sort of stuffed it back in. So this is it rolled up all the way, but I just have to be careful. Yeah, you can see a bit how wonky that is now. That's a problem for another project. Still though, 40 uses on here and a weight difference of just 0.08 grams. That's barely anything, but I think there might be a little bit of a visual difference, hopefully. I did wear it all over my lips here and there, but mostly I applied it as a final step as part of my often 3, sometimes 4-part lip combo. And yeah, when it's the final step, there's just not that much product that glides on, so hence 40 uses, but really not that much of a weight difference. Fenty Skin Luxe Balm. This is such a, wow, I made great progress on here. 40 uses as well. So this is the lip product, you know, as a lip balm that I've got in my everyday makeup drawer. So whenever I was sitting at my desk and my lips felt dry, I would be applying this one throughout the day. The product was in between the words Fenty and Skin, and now it's in between the T and the Y of Fenty. So quite a big jump. And weight-wise, those 40 uses made a difference of 0.49 grams. I'm gonna move on to nail polishes now, and then we're gonna go into eyes. I brought in 3 nail polishes and I did a total of 7 applications, 6 manis and 1 pedi. And so I've got 2 uses on each of them and then an extra one for the pedicure on one of the polishes. I'm gonna actually start with that one. So this is the one that I reached for the most, 3 uses and a difference of 0.9 grams. But because the bottle is quite wide, you can see those Sharpie lines. There's not a huge visual difference there. And it doesn't only depend on the size of the bottle, I find, it's also the formula. Then I also brought in this Kiko, let's call it a caramel polish. It doesn't really have a name. And I think I've got a nice progress line here with just 2 uses. Obviously this bottle is quite a bit slimmer than the Model's Own bottle. I've got an almost identical nail polish, an Estee Lauder one that was in a set that was decluttered to me by my mother-in-law, and I think I'm gonna combine these two. It's such a nice color and I really like it. I did quite a few manis with eyeshadow on top, glitter as well, and this is the one I was wearing yesterday or earlier in this video. So this is Spanish Bluebell by H&M. One time I used it with a gold glitter from my Pan That palette, and then in the earlier clips you're seeing it with a periwinkle shimmer on top, also from the same palette, the Revolution New Neutral Smoked palette. 2 uses and a difference of 0.59 grams, and here are the demarcations. I forgot to mention the weight difference on the Kiko polish. This is depotted, by the way. I just decanted it into a different bottle because the brush had broken ages ago. Minus 0.74 grams on this one. So it's not surprising that I've got the biggest weight difference on these polishes on here with 3 uses, 0.9. And then these two each, 2 uses, but a difference of 0.15 grams between them. I used 0.15 grams more of the Kiko compared to the H&M polish. Right, let's move on to mascara then. So I decluttered my Essence Lash Princess Sculpted Volume Mascara times ago. I did that on the 26th of April, so what day was that? Day 10. And I used up 0.37 grams, and that was within 12 uses. I then brought in another Essence mascara, this time a waterproof one. This is the Essence All Eyes on Me. I quite like this one. I'm actually wearing it today. Much better than what I had on yesterday. Yesterday I had on an Alverde and it barely shows up. 23 uses on here and a weight difference of 0.78 grams. I'm going to continue to use this one now. Yeah, I'm happy with this one. It's got another month or 2 on here before it hits the 6-month mark. I'm still comfortable using it. It doesn't cause me any irritation. I'm going to continue, and otherwise once it reaches that 6-month mark, I'm going to declutter it. I've got the exact date when I opened it in my spreadsheet. Here is the eye pencil that I finished and chose not to replace. So Trended Up 2-in-1 Line and Define Gel Kajal and Eyeliner in the shade 050. So this is all done now. Can't twist this up anymore. And the final time I just used it on my lower lash line because I didn't want to use it for tight lining anymore. It was just too low in the product, in the component rather. It was not comfortable anymore. I had 14 uses on here before I was done, and that made for a weight difference of 0.03 grams. And then I decided to bring in a primer in its place. And that was the Revolution Ceramide Primer. I've got 17 uses on here. And I weighed it before I used it for the first time when I brought it in, and I've got a weight difference of 2.69 grams on here. Don't want to show you the demarcations on the back because that's from my year-long project pan. So I'm trying to finish this product this year. I think I can do it. Final product before we move into my 2 eyeshadow palettes. This is the Sephora Shadow Stick in Fawn Shimmer. It's waterproof. This was almost new when I brought it in. You can see there that the tip of it from the intro shots was still quite sharpened from, you know, how it was when I bought it. I think I'd used it 1 or 2 times, and when I had it all the way rolled down, it was still poking out. Now it's quite deep-ish in the packaging. Here is how much I have left of it now. These move very fast, and there's not a lot of product in here to begin with. It's worth noting that because you think, oh, Sephora, you know, 1.4 grams in here. 34 uses though, and a difference of 0.3 grams. I'm glad I stuck this one in. I enjoyed using it. I wore it under every single eye look as a base, as an eyeshadow primer type thing. And yeah, it worked. It's neutral. Obviously it's got a colour on there, but it's still neutral enough though that I felt it brought all of my eye looks together very nicely. It just looked very nice. I like it. But yeah, I just find it's a bit, there's not that much in the packaging. I'm going to do my Pan That palette now. This is the Revolution Smoked palette, and I managed to use up in those 30 days 0.86 grams worth of eyeshadow. It's actually a little bit less than I had in between updates before, so obviously, yeah, I think it was just competing with my Build Your Own palette in this challenge. And you'll see in the tallies, I've got far more uses on here compared to this palette. So even on my most recent update that I filmed, I'm gonna link that so you know which one I'm talking about, because there might be another one that I filmed already by the time you're watching this. There's good progress on here, don't get me wrong, but it's just not as much as I was expecting there to be. I'm gonna go through how many times I used each shadow, and then I've got a little bit of stats for you in terms of total amount of uses on here, and then also average amount of uses per shadow, and then also which one was the last shadow that I got to, and I've got that for both palettes. So Void I used twice, this shadow here. Emit I used 18 times, and this is the shadow, and you can really see that here, that I was using in my lower lash line instead of the Trended Up eye pencil once that was done. And that's why I was able to replace the eye pencil with a primer. Diffuse, 6 uses on here. Trigger, 0 uses, but I already said that I wasn't really gonna use this anymore. I'm probably not gonna use it for the rest of the year. It's a pressed glitter. I'm trying to hit pan in everything and use it as much as I can, but I've hit pan in there now, so therefore I get to ignore it. Fortify was a new pan, 16 uses. And Vexer, just 1 use, even though it's actually a really pretty shadow. Haunt, Smite, Muse, and Tremble, I only used 1 time each. Just 1 use, and then I hit pan. That was great. Fuse, this is the shadow I had on my nails yesterday, or earlier in this video. I have got 4 uses on here, and one of those uses, the last one would have been the nail polish application, and I think 2 or 3 uses within this challenge to hit pan. Octane I used 6 times. It's a lovely shadow. Deceive I used 16 times. This often was an inner corner highlight type of shadow, but a couple of times I also used it as a topper shadow. Sepia is one of the shadows that I repressed. I've got 6 uses on here as well. Ignite, 1 use. Quell, 1 use. Smolder, 2 uses. And Aroma, 3 uses. Okay, so the last shadow I got to was actually Quell. Not counting triggers, you know, already. So yeah, Quell was the last one that I needed to use, and that was literally on day 30. That I was like, oh, I should use it. I have got a total amount of uses of 86 on here, and that's an average use per shadow of 5 uses. Now, if I exclude all of the glitters and then take their tally marks away as well from the total, I've got an average use of 6 uses per shadow on here. Let's compare that to my BYOP. Before I open it up, I'm going to give you those stats. So, total amount of uses on here, and that doesn't include the blush bronzer because that's not an eyeshadow, even though it lived in here, or it still is in here. 113 uses, so quite a bit more, 86 on the other. So that's 27 more uses on here in total compared to the smoked palette. And my average use per shadow is 10. And then if I exclude Crystal Ball, Urban Decay, a depotted shadow, it's a wide inner corner highlight type of shadow. Just that I wanted to exclude that because obviously that was, you know, I had 24 uses on here. We'll go through it anyway. But if I exclude those tallies and the shadow, then I've got an average of 9 uses per shadow on here. Versus, so 9 or 10 versus 5 or 6 on here. I think that says something. Here is the palette today. So, I have an empty here. This is my first empty eyeshadow this year. Yes, so happy about it. It was such a historic moment because I've been trying to finish this Kiko shadow for years. I think I bought it 4 years ago, and it was only during that final week of this challenge that I really just, so fell in love with this shadow and worked out a look that I wanted to pan. If I've got a picture of it, I'm going to include that here so you can take a look. So yeah, obviously I needed to wear it as an all over lid shadow, and then I would oftentimes apply this Franken here. This is a Franken from XX Revolution Sugar Baby and a Catrice palette that I bought in that same summer holiday then when I bought the Kiko. Yeah, I've got a video of how I'm mixing this one, this as a topper, so lovely, and then, or sometimes this one here, Exhale, depotted from the Revolution Chilled palette as a topper shadow. And then either this Glaminatrix Burgundy Matte here in the outer corner, or this depotted or repressed Revolution shadow called Amour from the Romance palette. Let's go through the shadows one by one though, and I've got close-ups so you can see the difference. I think in some instances it's super satisfying. Yeah, why not start here with the Urban Decay Crystal Ball, and I've got such a nice pan expansion on here, and that was 24 uses. The pan in the intro was tiny, tiny, tiny. I had already hit pan in that shadow, I think in Deck of Panning at the end of last year, but then I depotted the Urban Decay palette. Again, I've got a video for that. It just disturbed the shadow a little bit, so it's less visible, but yeah, such a nice expanded pan here now. The next shadow is the Glaminatrix shadow. I believe it's from the Rich Romantics palette. I'm gonna have to check with Ruth what actually she did, because yeah, she gave me the Sugar and Spice palette, but she had customized it slightly and she had swapped out 4 shadows. The Sugar and Spice shadows by Glaminatrix are labeled at the back, so it was easy for me to spot them and see what shade names they were, obviously. The Glaminatrix red shadow, 11 uses on here. Another Glaminatrix shadow, the peach one here. So I think I mentioned this already. I sometimes used it as a color corrector under my eyes with my face powder, my concocted one. And I've got 16 uses on here. If I used that, again, in the same eye look, maybe as a transition shadow, and then also for under the eyes, 1 tally. The Kiko, done. 17 uses that took me within this challenge. This was one of the shadows that I repressed, and then it just became so much easier. I wanted to repress it also because I wanted to be able to pick it up with my finger easier and then apply it as a topper shadow. And then once I hit pan again, I was just all in with my brush. Amour, 6 uses on this shadow here. This is Revolution. This is a repress from the XX Revolution Sugar Baby palette. 8 uses on here. A lovely cool tone pink matte. This, my favorite repress of Franken that I've ever made, at least right now. I love it so much. It's got these gorgeous purple sparkles in there, but it's not like an in-your-face type of shadow either. It's super versatile. I just really like it. Great for like ethereal looks. Like I said, worked lovely as a topper with the Kiko look. 13 uses I've got on here. Then Exhale, 8 uses on here. I think a bit of a pan expansion as well. Glam Green, I repressed. This is a Natasha Denona shadow from the Ayana palette, which I also got from Ruth. I've got just 3 uses on there. I had 2 before I repressed it and just 1 extra one, so not much to see. I need to just focus on this one next. When I looked at all of the shadows that were kind of low, because I really wanted to push for another empty in that last week, I decided to pick the Kiko because I was going to be the most successful with that one. So yeah, I think I'm going to have to focus on this one a little bit. I'm going to probably keep it in Build Your Own palette. I'll talk about that a little bit more. Another Natasha Denona from the Ayana palette. It's called Crease, and I used it 5 times. Candyland, just 2 uses on here. So this one and this one, Exhale, these 2 are both depotted from the Revolution Chilled palette. I just don't love this shadow. I used it a couple of times. I really like forced myself to use it. Once all over the lid with Aroma, the teal matte in the outer corner. And I think one time I mixed it with Glam Green, and that was kind of alright. The last shadow I got to, you can probably guess, it was Candyland. Yeah, just not keen on it. I may declutter it potentially or refranken it. So okay, obviously I've got 12 shadows in here, or 12 pans, 11 eyeshadows and 1 blush bronzer. For my build your own palette, this shadow here, Exhale, is going to stay in permanently, but I shall take it out for all of my BYOP updates because it's actually in 26 and 2026 this year for the letter E, because I'm doing it Beauty A to Z style. And that leaves me with 10 eyeshadows to play around with, switch out here and there for my build your own palette, plus the blush bronzer. I think that's kind of exciting. Obviously I can now make a change here already because I've got Kiko empty. I might keep it as is for now. Yeah, I think I will. I was actually really quite happy with the choices. I think I can give Candyland more of a chance. So that was all of my makeup now. I think I've got everything covered. Yeah, my notes, progress pictures. No, one last thing. I did promise you some progress lines. So this is how much I had left of the eye pencil and what I used up. The next one is the Sephora shadow stick. So it was here in the intro, and then this is where it is now, and this is where it ends. The Catrice lip liner, here is how much I had, and it's obviously done now. Yeah, so from this little dot here to there. And then the Revolution lip crayon, here is where I was in the intro. And here's where I am now, and this is where it ends. And then the Mina lipstick, yeah, so it ends here. This is where it is now, and this is exactly where it was in the intro. Couldn't draw a new line. And the H&M Do It All stick, the slightly shorter line is the intro, and that is the progress I was able to make, and here is how much I have got now, so up until here. Thank you so much for all of your support and for cheering me on. Yeah, that's really, really helpful, and it obviously helps me to stay accountable. I am so glad it's done now and I don't have to do it for another year. I'm just so excited to play with all of my makeup again. It'll be another year, at least, I think. 2027, who knows? Maybe I'll suddenly want to do it in February, who knows? But yeah, very excited to be reunited. I'm going to try and show you at least a little picture of what my makeup drawer looks like now, once I've put everything, all of my backups, actual backups and so-called backups, back into my everyday makeup drawer. So maybe there's a difference. I did have 5 empties. Well, obviously 2 of them were just small pencils and then 1 was an eyeshadow, but some bulky packaging moved out. Looking at the Lancome foundation, for example, maybe it made a difference. I think I'm gonna try and have everything in my drawer, at least for a little bit, and if I do get overwhelmed again, or I'm noticing that I'm not really making progress on items that I would like to see progress on, then I'm going to have to take bits out again. Obviously, that's the natural way it is. Ideally, I'd love for my actual replacements to either be gone or live in a tiny little pouch or little box within those 2 drawers that I've got in my desk. But that's still a little journey ahead of me until I get there. But I think that's enough for me for today and for this year's version of my 30-day makeup bag challenge. Yeah, thank you so much for watching all the way until the end. Thank you for your support on this round, as well as on the previous rounds if you were already there for that. And of course also thank you if you just found me and you're new to my channel. I appreciate you. And I hope you will subscribe if you haven't done so already. I'd love to have you around. Thanks ever so much again. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day or night, wherever you are. And I'm sending you so much love. Take care. Bye.